right? First game and time for the Fianchetto Gambit. Guess my opponent doesn't know this. So d4, let me start with g6. The idea is to invite pawn to e4, which most of my opponents play, by the way. Yup. If e5 is played after pawn to f5, I'm just gonna play pawn to d6. Playing in the Alekhine style, white has to take, otherwise e5 runs into d6. That's what I'm talking about. So pawn takes. Now I don't have to take due to queen h5 checkmate. So don't say I didn't warn you. Once again, d5 is the move in this position. So letting white to take my second pawn as well, after which I'll just take back and I just removed that. Yep, now the plan is to go queen d6, protecting my g6 pawn and also stopping the London bishop from coming to, f4. So queen d6, white played bishop d3, by the way. Queen d6 protects my pawn on g6 and also prevents the London bishop from coming out. Knight to f3. What did I say? Whenever you see knight to f3, play bishop g4, pinning that knight. h3 will be a sheer waste of time because I don't even have to move my light squared bishop, so I'm not worried about that because I have rook takes h1 in case of pawn to h3 and pawn takes. Knight c6 is coming, targeting the d4 pawn, and I can also start with s6 if I want, but it is what it is. So let me highlight my plan so that you know what I'm thinking about. By the way, I'm playing in Zen mode, which is just a feature to hide your opponent's details if you don't want to get intimidated by their rating. And I'm going to try and guess my opponent's rating later in the game. So h3, let me go knight c6, targeting the d4 pawn. I guess white has to play c3. I don't care about my bishop because I know white can't take it. I have pawn to e5 next. e5, following my plan. If pawn takes, I'm just going to take back with my knight. So I covered this game plan in my tutorial videos. So I'm just following whatever I taught, and these are the moves that I expect to, see. I expect to see bishop e2 by white, after which I'm just gonna take the knight with my bishop. Okay, that's weird. Queen e2 looks weird. I didn't even bother to cover it because it doesn't just make sense. But one thing I know is I just have to take the knight, right? So bishop takes f3, then white will have to take with his g pawn. So based on white's previous move, what do I think is his rating? What could be my opponent's rating? Let me say between 2050 and 2000. Oh, let me just say 2100. Yeah, by 2100, I mean someone below 2150. So it could be between 2100 and 2150. So let's just say my opponent is a 2100 rated player, period. Okay, so back to the game. So white played queen e2, and now I'm thinking whether to take on f3 with my bishop or not. So I think let me just take and then castle long after pawn takes f3. By the way, since I haven't seen any chess YouTuber playing this Fianchetto Gambit, I'm going to adopt it and call it my elbow gambit or Kaspar's Fianchetto Gambit, since I'm using my plans. I've never seen these plans anywhere else before. So let me know what you think in the comment section, you guys. If you think I should go on to adopt this gambit and call it the elbow gambit, or which name you want me to give it, but I'll stick with Kaspar's elbow gambit. Right, so finally castled long, waiting to see what my opponent is going to do. My plan is to go rook e8. I see something like bishop f4, pinning my knight, but I have knight f6 anyways. There we see bishop e3. I said this goes with bishop h6 because you develop your dark squad bishop on h6 anyways, even if white doesn't play bishop e3. So if white takes, I'm going to take with my rook. Knight d2. I'm sure white's plan is to castle long as well. Bear in mind that I'm only down a pawn, one pawn, but I'm very much ahead in development with lots of attacking opportunities like knight takes d3, for example. That's check, which is one thing I love about this gambit, because it's a gambit for people who like attacking, for aggressive players. Bishop takes, I expect white to take with his pawn, and then I'll go queen g3 check, just trying to mess up the position, make him lose the right to castle. So yeah, with these kinds of moves, this can only be a 2100 rated player. And I don't mean to insult. What? Queen e3, I didn't see that coming. Why is this bad? Because the queen is now standing right in front of the king. Or in fact, let me come up with another plan to stop white from castling either to the king side or to the queen side. So the move that looks attractive is queen a6. Because if castle long, I'll take the a2 pawn. So queen a6 stops white from castling short or long because I have two threats as highlighted. So let's see what white is going to do. I don't like his queen e3 move because I can just play knight to f6 next, giving a chance and pin the queen to the king. So that was a bad decision by my opponent, and that just gave me more time to come up with great initiative. a3 by white. So I guess now I can go knight to f6 followed by rook h e8, pinning that queen bad. My opponent has knight e4. Maybe knight f6 is kind of too early. Let me just go queen a4. Queen a4 will stop white from castling long, and that automatically sets a little trap on e8 because the queen on a4 is now eyeballing the e8 square, renewing my rook e8 pin move. So honestly, I didn't see this combo coming, but this is why it's good to coordinate your pieces at all times. And by piece coordination, we mean every piece defending every piece in simple terms. So there should be a connection between your pieces. They should be defending each other in some way. That's what we mean, technically speaking. And there we see queen d4 by white finally. So I think it's high time for me to develop my king's knight because my rook is under attack. Oh, also my queen is under attack. Let me give it a check first and see what next I can do. After rook e8 check, then maybe queen a6 check, trying to buy time on the king. I need to keep an eye on my other rook on h8. Okay, c4 by white. Now I have to develop knight e7. Knight e7, the idea is to go on f5 someday, harassing the queen. So there we see rook a e1. Okay, knight f5, attacking the queen. If rook takes, I'm just gonna take. Let's see what white is going to do here, I guess. Okay, queen takes d5, queen takes d5. Oh, 8 seconds, let me just simplify the game. The next queen f6. Queen f6, rook e8, check, queen f6. Queen f6 attacking the pawn on b2, that's the idea. Then rook e8 is coming. So these are just tactical moves to waste my opponent's time. I have no time to give commentaries whatsoever. Okay, king f1 allows me to capture the knight. Rook d8. Let's take the knight. I was almost so close with my prediction. I said my opponent was probably rated between 2100 and 2150, but I still chose 2100, which is not far from 2113. So my opponent is a 2113 rated player. So let me try to play the next game. I want to meet someone who is going to decline this gambit in one way or another so that I can just demonstrate to you guys how you can keep on fighting even if they don't accept your Fianchetto gambit. And hey, before I continue, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you are new. Don't just watch. Also turn on the bell notification icon so that you don't miss any of my future uploads. 4 seconds, let's go. Alright, so here's another game. I hope to see d4. Again, I just want to go f5, but there we see knight f3, f5 anyways. And there is the decline variation finally. Okay, so this is a case of the Fianchetto gambit declined. Because I know sooner or later white is still going to play this pawn to d4 move. So in my yesterday's video, I said just go the Alekhine's way. The plan from here is very simple. Pawn to d6, then you go e6 next, pawn to a6, b5, then bishop b7. This is how you develop your light squared bishop. By the way, you can even start with knight c6 first before playing pawn to a6. Sometimes move order doesn't matter. It all depends on what your opponent does. And on the king side, the first move I'll consider is pawn to h6, followed by bishop g7, and from there I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. Knight e7 is going to come later in the game or after playing pawn to e6 immediately. Again, it all depends on what my opponent does. It's not just about memorizing the move order. So I'm going to play d6. Next, I'm thinking of pawn to e6. So I expect to see pawn to d4 by white. So this is a clear case of the declined gambit. So you see what I'm talking about. Here we see pawn to d4. I said in one way or another it's gonna come. So what did I say here? You simply take on e5. So white should take back with his knight, not with the d pawn, because I'm going to, take his queen, making them lose the right to castle. Yep, so after knight takes e5, the move that you're supposed to play is bishop g7, since it is not the pawn which is sitting on e5. That's what I said in my yesterday's video. So I'm just following everything that I showed you in my yesterday's tutorial video, which is why it is very important to watch those kinds of tutorials. If it was a pawn which was on e5, I was going to play pawn to e6 and then play knight e7 to monitor the d5 square. s6, knight c6, b5, bishop b7, depending on what white was going to do. So anyways, here we see bishop f4. I remember covering this as well, and I think the move to play here, the move to consider, is knight to f6, trying to go after that bishop. So knight to f6, simply knight to f6. So far so good. I like what I'm seeing here. Can't complain. Okay, so white just played bishop c4. Did I cover this move? I don't remember, but yeah, I did. Actually, I did. It just transposed back to one of the lines that I talked about in that tutorial. Again, bishop c4 by white kind of stops me from castling short, but anyways, I can still go pawn to e6 and castle short if I want to. But the whole idea of knight to f6, by the way, was to go knight h5, attacking that dark squared bishop. Simple. Then given a chance, I would play pawn to e6 and castle short, putting my king to safety if I want. So this is exactly what I covered in my yesterday's video. By the way, if bishop g3, I'm just going to play pawn to f4, trapping that dark squared bishop, case closed. And in case of bishop e3, I'm just gonna, I'm still going to play something like pawn to f4, or just something else, pawn to f4, or just take the knight on e5. Yeah, so if white plays bishop e3, I'm just going to take his knight on e5. I've never seen this move before. My opponents are full of surprises, guys. I didn't even cover this move in my video, which means this is kind of a dubious move. You know what? I'm just gonna take on d4. I don't mind losing my rook on h8 because I know that's what my opponent is up to. But even after knight takes h8 happens, I still have queen takes c4. Yep. Oh, okay. So white just took, which is the best move. So now I can take. And if knight takes h8, I'm just going to take this, the other bishop. Because I don't know how white is going to rescue his knight. Besides, I have this move. Sorry, I have bishop takes b2, winning the rook as well. So I don't think white has time to capture my rook on h8, but let's just see what he will do. You know what? This guy is being very careful. So I'm going to say he is probably rated below 2100. And there we see knight takes finally. He can't be rated above that. I'm just speaking from my experience, guys. This has nothing to do with pride or whatsoever. I mean, I've been a 1900 before, I've been an 1800 rated player before, and I've been a 2000 rated player before. So if anything, I'm just encouraging you guys to improve your ratings, through practice. As they say, practice makes perfect, right? Okay, so there we see pawn to g3. I'm not sure how good pawn to g3 is because I feel that gives me more initiative. Pawn to g3 gives me time to take on b2 and probably win that rook. But in order for me to cut the communication between white's light squared bishop and the knight, it's better to retreat my knight on e6 so that there is no this. I'm just going to take. So we are talking of, white being down a piece, I guess. Yeah, I have 5 pieces against 4. So white is now down a piece. And this is another magic behind this gambit, you guys. Okay, so white just castled short. I guess this is high time for me to position my pieces on very good squares, or on the most active squares. So I just want to put my knight on e4 given a chance, though that's not an ideal square. It's not an outpost. There's also pawn to e5, by the way. I anticipated rook e1 by white, but let me just go knight c6. I think knight c6 will support pawn to e5 in the near future. Or maybe I should have played e5 first. And I'm just developing a minor piece that was doing nothing at its initial square. So bishop d7, I want to castle long, putting my king to safety. Knight b5 by white. Okay, I didn't see that coming, but I think I can just do the same. I mean, my a7 pawn is well protected by my knight. Still have e5, by the way, in case you're wondering, and I'm up a piece. So I have less to worry about. And white just played rook at d1. So I guess I can just go pawn to e5. I mean, what else can I do? What else do I know? Pawn to e4 is coming. I still need to be a little bit careful though. I'm up a piece. So when you are up a piece, or when you have a positional advantage, you should start exchanging your pieces but not your pawns. That's how you simplify the game of chess. You don't have to complicate things. I mean, just exchange your big pieces and not your pawns. So that's just one of the principles in a middle game that you should always remember. The idea is just to remain with... Oh, I'm running low on time. So the idea is to remain with pawns in the end game. If bishop takes, I think I'll just take the knight on b5. I guess there's increment, but I still need to be a little bit fast. So waiting to see what white is going to do here. Okay, so there we see bishop takes. Can I take with... No. Let me take with my pawn. I think this is not the right time to trade off my only rook, which is remaining. Yeah, so I wanted to take with my bishop on c6, but bc makes a lot of sense. And now white's knight on b5 is under attack, so I can't see anything apart from knight a3. I don't know why my opponent is taking long. That's why I said he must be rated below 2100. In fact, my final prediction is someone rated between 1900 and 2000. Yeah, I'll just stick with that. So there we see pawn to f3. Pawn to f3, I think just retreating my knight. I have knight takes f3 check, getting that rook if need be. So I guess white is going to play king g2, holding on to his pawn, because I don't see much that can be done in this position. But after that, I'll just take the knight. So let's just see what my opponent is going. What? Wait. And just like that, my opponent resigned? Wow. And I wasn't even close with my prediction. Shame.